Hey guys, it's Cassie. So today we're going to be talking about Sleeping Beauty. I have a few disclaimers before we start this episode of life. I will be listing the makeup products that I use and like face cleaning products down in the description. I will be doing makeup as Sleeping Beauty during this video, but I won't be dressing up as Sleeping Beauty. There is a quiz at the end of this, so if you guys want to stay tuned for that, then you definitely can. Links to the story will be put in the description as well. There is burning at the stake involved in these stories, eating of children, rape, and attempted murder. So if any of those things trigger you, then please exit out of this video. You can enjoy more videos of mine or just other people's. So yeah, let's get on to the video, and I hope you guys like it. Also, I will be getting a green screen, so it will be behind me obviously, and some more ring lights so you guys can see the makeup better. So yeah, but let's get into the story real fast. I'm going to be starting with the face cleaning part, and then the eyes, and then the face, like foundation and blush and stuff like that. So let's get into Sun, Moon, and Talia. I'm so happy. Okay, so there are 3 wide-known story origins of Sleeping Beauty. So we're going to start with Baselle's story, and then the Grimm brothers, and then the movies, since, you know, all of them made the movie. You know what I mean. Okay, so let's start with Sun, Moon, and Talia. Sorry if I dance a lot. I have ADHD, and I don't know what to do with myself. I should start with that Aurora, Sleeping Beauty, is my favorite princess of all time. But yeah, okay, let's get into it. So, there was this woman named Talia, and when she was born, her father wanted to know, like, what her life was going to be like. Like, was she going to be safe? Like, you know, like, hopefully every father wants their daughter to be safe. So, he asked the astrologers and the wise men and everyone, like, what's going to happen to my child? And they said that she was going to be in danger by a splinter of flax when she gets older. And so her father, being the lord of, you know, household or whatever, he ordered every flax to not be let into his house. So when she got older, she was, like, out doing something. It doesn't really say, but she was out, and there was this woman that was, you know, spinning flax on a spindle, and she asked the woman, like, can I spin the flax? And the woman was like, yeah, no, go ahead. And the flax got in between her nail and her thumb. She fell, and she appeared dead, but she wasn't actually dead. She fell into a deep sleep, and her father didn't want to, you know, have to deal with her death. He just denied it, and so he put her in one of his country estates so that he'd actually have to bury her. You know, he was in denial. One day, this married king came by the country estate, and he saw Talia, and he was like, oh my god, you're so beautiful, like, I want you. And he tried to wake her up, but she wouldn't wake up. So he tried to wake her up, and she wouldn't wake up. He was crying out and holding her in his arms, and in the story, they called what he did next, gathering the first fruits of love. Means that he raped her, and so one day she gave birth. I don't know how, don't ask me, but she gave birth. And so she gave birth to twins. And one of them couldn't find her breast so that they could eat, so the baby actually found her thumb instead, her finger or whatever, and they sucked out the splinter that was in between, you know, her nail and her thumb. So Talia instantly woke up and found that, you know, she had babies and stuff. And so one day, the king that got her pregnant came by the country estate, and, you know, he was so overjoyed that, you know, he had children, and he had the one that he loved. But, you know. So they instantly fell in love once they saw each other, and he went back to his castle that day. And when he went back, he fell asleep, you know, next to his wife. And he, in his sleep, he said Sun, Moon, and Talia. Oh, and by the way, they named the twins Sun, and Moon. So that's why it's Sun, Moon, and Talia. So when the wife hears that he said Sun, Moon, and Talia, she's like, what are you talking about? So she goes to his secretary and is like, who is Sun, Moon, and Talia? And so he spills all. Apparently he can't keep his mouth shut. And so he spills it, and she's like, what? And so she forges a letter to his son and his daughter, asking them to go to the castle. And they're like, oh yeah, no, we want to see that. Like, you know, why not? And so they went to the castle, and when they went, she commanded the cook to kill the children once they arrived and to feed it as soup to the king. And the cook, you know, being really wise, when the kids arrived, he just hid them someplace safe until, you know, hopefully that, I don't even know what his plan was, but he saved the kids, he hid them someplace safe, and he just fed 2 lambs to the king later that night. The queen also invited the mother as well. The mother was going to be burned at the stake, and so she started screaming, and while she was screaming, the king was eating the lamb. You know, the queen thought it was the children, but it was actually just lamb. So he went to the courtyard, and he's like, why is she being burned at the stake? Like, what is wrong with you? And the queen is like, I got information from your secretary that you've been having an affair. Your wife is going to be burned at the stake, and you just ate your 2 kids. And he's like, what? So he demands to have the cook, the secretary, and the queen all be burned at the stake. Right before the cook was about to be burned at the stake, the cook told the king, I didn't actually kill your kids. They're safely hidden somewhere. I don't know where he hid them, but they were safe. And so he was awarded the royal chamberlain, while the queen and the secretary died at the stake. They were burned alive. Yeah. They live happily ever after, and, you know, the Talia gets to live at the castle with her children and the king. So let's move on to the Grimm brothers version, which is called Sleeping Beauty. It was made in the 1850s. So the story starts off that there was a king and a queen, and they wanted a child really badly, but unfortunately, you know, like, they couldn't have one. So one day, the queen was actually having a bath, and she was wishing that she could have a child. And so this frog comes up to the windowsill and tells her that she's gonna actually have a child. And so, you know, a year later, the wish was fulfilled, and she had a child. So the king had a party to celebrate, and this is where it doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. So the king invites these 13 wise women. That's not the part that confuses me. The next part is, he couldn't afford to have 13 plates for the 13 wise women, so he decided to just leave one at home. So the 13th wise woman was really annoyed at this and was like, why didn't you invite me? So during the party, the 12 that were invited, they gave their wishes for the princess, and, you know, it was beauty, song, wealth, you know, so on and so forth. And then when the 12th one was about to give her wish, the 13th wise woman came in, didn't look anyone in the eye. She just came in like a badass bitch and was like, I curse you until you are 15 years old to fall into a deep sleep from a splinter. From a spindle. You know, a splinter and a spindle. Yeah. Then she just leaves. Okay, she's a badass bitch. She just leaves. So the 12th fairy that was going to make her wish, but was interrupted by the 13th fairy. Not 13th fairy. I'm just like, I always think of, you know, the movies, so I keep saying fairy, but it's actually wise women, so I'm sorry if I keep saying fairy, it's wise women. So anyway, so the 12th wise woman gave her wish. She was like, magic isn't as powerful as hers. I can dampen the wish, but I can't stop it. So she says on her 16th birthday, she will fall into a deep sleep instead of dying, and she will be awoken by a true love's kiss. So her birthday comes, and this is a part that also really annoys me because it just doesn't make sense. The father and the mother, they leave the castle on her birthday, knowing what's gonna happen, I guess not caring. So it doesn't make sense to me, but they leave, and the princess wanders around the castle. So, you know, it's her birthday, and she's lonely because no one wants to be with her, which is really messed up. So she wanders around the castle, and she wanders into this area where it has a door, and it has a rusted key inside the lock. So she opens the door, and she sees this old woman spinning a flax on a spindle. And so she's really interested. And so she's like, can I try? And so she does. And she falls down dead. And when she falls down dead, the king and the queen are actually arriving back at the castle. And so they fall asleep. And so does the whole entire kingdom. So the kingdom is put to sleep for 100 years. Every year there was a prince that would come to the castle, and he would try to get through the castle, but the castle was surrounded by thorns, and they couldn't get through because once they tried, the thorns would just swallow them whole. One year, this prince from a faraway kingdom came by the kingdom and heard about the story. And he said, from this old man at like one of the other like neighboring kingdoms or something in the same country. So the prince was like, I want to try to get this to save her, you know. And so he went to the castle, and he found that the castle was surrounded by thorns, and he got to go through. The prince, he was just wandering around the castle, and he was trying to find the woman, and he saw that everyone was asleep. Like the cook, the animals, you know, everyone was just asleep. And so he rushed to the princess and found her and kissed her, and she woke up instantly. So he woke her up, and they walked down together. And they were greeted by, like, everyone. And they were so happy that they finally woke up. And, like, I wonder what the culture shock was. Like, because 100 years is a long time. So, like, a lot of things could have changed during that time. Just a whole thing. But, so that's the end of that story. The story of Sleeping Beauty, the movie, was placed in 14th century. Also, we have dogs in the background, so you might see them walking around, so you can ignore it or you can't ignore it. I don't know. Whatever. So, the story opens with the Princess Aurora being born, and her father throws a feast in her honor. When the party is thrown, his friend from a neighboring kingdom has a son who looks around like 9 or 10 or something, and they have an arranged marriage between his son and the princess. So during the party, the 3 fairies, Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather, they give wishes to the princess. And Fauna gives the gift of beauty. Fauna gives the gift of song. And then Merryweather is about to give her gift, but the evil fairy drops by, like the evil fairy does, and curses the princess to prick her finger on her 16th birthday, and she will fall down dead. And so then she just leaves. Everyone's shocked, and Merryweather is the last fairy that can give a wish to the princess. And so she gives her wish of that when she turns 15, yes, she will prick her finger and fall, but she won't die. Instead, she'll just fall into a deep sleep. And so, that helps everyone be calm a little bit more, but the king wants to take precautions. So he orders that every spindle in the land gets destroyed. Little does he know that the evil fairy actually kept, a spindle for herself. The fairies decide to take the princess, with the king and queen's permission, and hide in a cottage deep in the woods so that the evil fairy couldn't find Sleeping Beauty, Aurora, Bright Rose, whatever you want to call it. So 15 years pass, and the fairies want to make her 16th birthday special. So they try to make her like a little birthday party and tell they have to bring her back to the castle. And so they have her go out and pick some berries, and they are trying to make a cake and a dress. And so that whole thing is happening, and they don't want to use magic because they can't be found. And so the princess is out picking berries, and she is like singing with the animals and stuff, and this prince hears her singing, and he wants to find her. So he has his horse try to find the person that's singing, and the horse trips, and the prince falls into a pond, soaks his clothes, obviously, and he hangs it up. And so the animals, they go and they find the clothes and pretend to be, a guy, because she's singing a song, Once Upon a Dream. So the princess, she's dancing with the animals, and the prince finds her, and they're hanging out for a hot second, and they're just like singing. And during this time, Maleficent sends out her bird to find the princess, since it's getting a little bit late in life and she needs to get pricked. So she sends a bird out, and he finds a cottage where the fairies are living. He sees like flashes of pink and blue going by, and it's their magic, because they can't make a cake and a dress to save their freaking lives. So he finds the fairies, and he waits there to see if that's actually them. When the bird finds the fairies, that's when Aurora runs away from the prince, and the prince is like, but I want to meet you again. Like, when can I meet you? Where can I meet you? And stuff. And she's like, oh no, we can't ever meet again. Like, I'm gonna get in trouble and stuff. And he's like, what? Why? And she finally gives it. She tells the prince, meet me in the cottage, after dark tonight. We can be together. And the prince is like, okay, yeah, let's do that. She gets to the cottage, and that's when the bird finds Aurora, and he goes to tell Maleficent. And so when she gets to the cottage, she tells, the fairies, I met this man once upon a dream in the woods. I need to be with him. And they're like, you can't. You're the princess. That's a freaking big bombshell, no, you're a princess. You can't be with anyone. Your arranged marriage, you can't, this was set out a long time ago. You had no say in it. So she goes out. That's, a lot of concealer. It, makes it look like foundation, but I haven't even put on foundation yet. Okay, so anyway, so when she's telling the fairies this, and they're like, no, we need to bring you back to the castle tonight. The prince is actually on his way to the castle to tell his father, you know, like, I met this woman and I'm going to marry her. Little do they both know, like, they all don't know this, but, like, they're gonna be together anyway, but they don't all know that. They will, but they don't right now. And so the king is like, you can't marry anyone else. Like, you know, we arranged this marriage a long time ago, and you can't marry a peasant girl. The prince leaves and goes to the cottage, but while he's trying to go to the cottage, the princess is entering the castle. No one knows what's going on. Like, no one. And, you know, everyone's getting ready for her, so there's, like, a huge party and everything going on. So the fairies leave her in this room all by herself. She's crying her eyes out, and she is, like, being called to this area where, you know, there's a spindle, and she's going to be captured. And this is where, like, it really doesn't make sense. Like, it's the evil queen, she goes to the place that, you know, Aurora is at, and she's tempting her to prick her finger so that she can fall into a deep sleep. And she falls into a deep sleep, and so the fairies, you know, they have to put her on the bed so that she can be comfortable. So the prince is back at the cottage, and this is where it really doesn't make sense, because the evil queen says in the cottage, when he finds the prince, she was waiting for a peasant, but she was already at the castle tempting Aurora to prick her finger. So I don't get why she just didn't take her at the castle and had to wait at the cottage for her. Like, it doesn't make sense. So that's just me, but obviously when you think about it, it doesn't add up. So anyway, the prince arrives at the cottage, and the evil queen takes the prince hostage, obviously. So she brings him to the Forbidden Garden. When Aurora fell asleep, the fairies had to put everyone else to sleep as well. So they went and they put them to sleep, and while they were putting everyone to sleep, Fauna, one of the fairies, was putting Prince Philip's father to sleep. Okay, yeah, that was happening. So he was telling Aurora's father, you know, my son doesn't want to marry your daughter, but they're falling asleep, so, you know, they can't have an argument. So he's, like, telling him, my son found the one he wants to marry, and it's a peasant girl. He's like, they met once upon a dream in the forest, and he wants to marry this girl. And Fauna is like, oh my Lord Jesus Christ. And she's like, okay, I gotta get the other fairies. So she goes and gets Fauna and Merryweather, and they go and they try to find the prince who's at the cottage, because, you know, like, the princess was like, he's gonna meet me at the cottage later in the night, you know, like, run away together. They need to go to the Forbidden Garden where the prince. And so they go over there. Evil fairy is, like, tormenting the prince, and then she finally leaves, because, you know, she has to find the princess. She has to find the princess, and so, you know, he just leaves her. She leaves him. Yeah, that's one. And so the fairies are like, we need to save this guy. So, you know, he needs to save her, the princess, you know, all that fun stuff. So he is saved by the fairies, and they run to the castle. And when they get there, you know, they gave him a sword and a shield when they saved the prince. So he's, like, fighting Maleficent, the evil fairy. So she turns herself into a dragon. She surrounds the castle in thorns and is like, you can't save her, okay? Like, no. Don't even try it. And so he is like, I'm going to. Yeah. So he fights Maleficent, and he throws his sword into Maleficent and instantly kills her. And And then he runs to the castle and wakes up Sleeping Beauty. And so they go downstairs, they meet everyone, and they live happily ever after. I'm gonna put my lipstick on real fast, and then we will continue with the rest of, life. So let's move on to questions and conclusion. Who took care of the kids while the king was gone? How did she even give birth? I don't understand. I know that polar bears can give birth while sleeping, but I don't understand how she did it. Even if she did a C-section, there wasn't that technology back then. Unless if the woman died and they had to save the baby or something, then they probably would have. But I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense because the story was made in the 1600s. So I don't understand why. I don't understand it. So anyway. Also, did Talia contact her parents when she woke up? And did she wonder how she got pregnant when the king came and came over to the country estate and was like, I'm the father? Or was he adopt the kids or something? All of these things don't add up. I don't understand it. And the woman who, poisoned Talia or whatever, put her to a deep sleep, did she ever get punished? So we'll move on to the Grimm brothers version of Sleeping Beauty. What really annoys me is that the king is the king, right? So why can't he order one more plate to be set for the 13th wise woman? It doesn't make sense. He could have avoided the whole entire thing if he just got one more seat in. It doesn't add up. It doesn't really make sense. And why did the princess's Briar Rose's parents, why did they leave on her birthday when they knew that she was cursed? Did they not care about her daughters, so they just wanted her to die? It just doesn't make any sense to me, Does that make sense? That makes sense. In the movie, there were only 3 fairies, not 13 fairies, and Briar Rose's name was mentioned in the beginning of the movie, and in the other stories, it was actually mentioned the middle and towards the end. So, yeah, well, in the Sleeping Brothers story, her name was actually mentioned in the middle or the end, so I don't even, why do you not introduce the name of the main character of the story at the beginning? It just doesn't make sense. And then we're going to end this episode with a quiz. In Sun, Moon, and Talia, why did the queen want to kill the children? Was it A, jealousy, B, betrayal, or C, all of the above? I'll give you 10 seconds to answer. And if you answered correctly, the answer would be C, all of the above. The next and final question is, what title did the cook get after he revealed that he saved the children? Was it A, Royal Chamberlain, B, Guard, or C, Lord? I'll give you 10 seconds to decide, and your timer starts now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up, click the notification buttons, and always make sure to subscribe. I hope you guys like the makeup look that I made for Sleeping Beauty. Make sure you have a amazing, wonderful day, and you can always check out more videos like these later on in life, or right now once you leave this video. So yeah. Okay, I'll see you all next time. Bye.